right, so this is Mike Dean reporting for the Rideshare Report, ridesharereport.com. I'm right here at 1455 Market Street, and Abe Hussein is being interviewed, as you can see down here at the protest.
Number one interview right there.
In fact, he's being interviewed by KTSF 26. And as you can see, there are a number of drivers here that are joining in on the protest, participating. And there's a number of media syndications here as well. Hey guys, this is Mike Dean with Rideshare Report. The strike is in front of 1455 Market Street, and all of the Uber employees are being rerouted through a side entrance here to kind of avoid the strike or shield the employees from the pain and suffering. Or maybe perhaps verbal abuse, yes. So I'm just capturing, as you can see, there's a long line of Uber employees and perhaps even other employees from other offices in the building just being rerouted to the side entrance here, just around the corner from Uber's corporate office on 1455 Market Street. All you guys are Uber employees? Are you being rerouted? No? Some? All right, let's move around to the front of the building and see what activity is happening over there.
$35 an hour and $1,000 a week and doesn't show up on that promise, once they take that 30% commission and they're thinking and riding we're left with nothing. We're out here protesting a company that would rather meet us with security guards and police officers than anybody on their staff. We're out here protesting a company that does not cover our insurance, does not cover our gas, does not cover our tickets and our fines. The passengers of San Francisco do not like being picked up outside of their spot, and we have incurred tickets because of this. And where's Uber at to cover us? You got a $50 billion company that can't even cover a ticket that you get when you work for them? Uber's great, but drivers in need. 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 Uber's great, but drivers in need.
My name's Abe. A-B-E, last name's H-U-S-E-I-N. I used to be an Uber driver until I was deactivated for trying to form a strike in my own city of Kansas City. I mean, I had one of the highest ratings in the company. I was at 4.95 out of 5. I had a high acceptance rating, low cancellation rating, and every single one of my rider feedbacks was positive.
Hey, Abe, I'm Mike Lamar. You've seen me on the Facebook.
Yeah, man, what's going on,
good.
man?
How are you?
Good to see you.
I
yeah.
just, just for a word, I'm going to be posting this on to some of the Facebook group chats.
Sure.
If you can share just, how you feel about some of the drivers are not really supportive and in fact critical. And, if you can say anything to all the drivers collectively, tell them, speak to them and tell them in your own words what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
and what's your goal.
We're here now to fight for the rights of all Uber drivers. So whether you agree with it or not, we're actually fighting for your rights, whether you support this or not. And the reality is, we don't need everybody's support. All we need is a majority or a percentage of drivers to stand up and unite as one, and that's all we need. So the people that are going to continue to drive or not support us, it doesn't really matter, because the reality is, the drivers that have been driving for longer than a few months, the majority agree with the movement, and it's going to be. The way we're trying to do this now is to raise awareness across the nation to where enough drivers are aware of what's going on. The reason why they're not going to meet our demands this weekend is because the strike has not reached the masses yet. And that's why we're here, to help raise awareness, to reach the masses. So this is just the beginning of the beginning. We're going to continue to hold protests, continue to go on strike, and we have started a movement that's not going to be stopped. And the only way it's going to be stopped is by Uber giving in to our demands, which means more money in every driver's pocket. So the drivers that don't support the movement, then you're pretty much saying that you don't want to have more money in your pocket and you don't want to get tipped. So whenever Uber decides to change their policies, you should opt out of the changes so you can drive for less money, because you never supported the drivers that were trying to fight for your own rights.
Right. Now, I'm a driver as well, as you know. In fact, I'm the first rideshare driver in the industry. So I've been doing this for quite some time, since 2011, starting with Sidecar. And I've seen the transitions over the years. I've seen the fare cuts. I've seen what can be considered exploitation and taking advantage of the population or the driver base. But one thing I've always felt I've always been somewhat against protests, and more for protesting or kind of reaching the government, as opposed to Uber, who doesn't seem to bend to anything. What do you think about taking this directly to like the state capitol, or government entities, or the labor boards, and pushing this on them, as opposed to kind of pushing it on Uber?
No, I totally agree with you. I think we should do that, which we actually are doing that. Personally, I have a case pending right now with the National Labor Relations Board. I filed a claim with Uber against Uber a few months ago when they wrongfully terminated me. The thing about governments and the court system is they take a long time. So we are fighting with the court system. In the case of California, fighting for become being mistreated.
Misclassification? Yeah.
So we are doing things from a government standpoint, but these things take a long time. So instead of waiting for government to step in, we need to take matters into our own hands and raise up, fight for our own rights ourselves.
Check it out.
So I take it you're just getting things rolling right now, generating some interest, gathering the troops, and getting the media obviously involved, which apparently this is nationwide. I've seen anywhere from 6 to 10 different news media syndications covering this particular event. So they're helping, in a sense, spreading the word and spreading the cause.
You're exactly right, brother. I mean, I actually, no lie, no exaggeration. I got a call and message today from at least 10 reporters from all across the nation covering the story. And whether they say bad or good doesn't really matter. The matter is, it's getting the word out there. And any press at this point is good press. So I'll talk to people that are against the cause, that are making videos and making groups that are against the cause, are actually helping the cause, because they're raising awareness. And a lot of people here, I talked to a lot of drivers here, they knew about the strike because of people that were talking bad about the strike. So I encourage all to talk about the strike in general, because this is just the beginning, and the whole point is to raise awareness. We're not expecting Uber to meet the demands this weekend. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is drivers are going to know, wow, drivers across the nation stood up and took protests in all the cities, and we're going to take notice, and it's going to take us more serious now. And as for the next protest, it's going to gain momentum and gain more support and more support. This is just the start. It's not going to happen overnight.
Great, gotcha. Thanks for your time, Abe. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
brother.
Good luck with the cause, and I hope it does benefit the drivers, as being one myself. Lots of changes definitely need to be made, and you're addressing that as we speak.
Thanks, brother.
All right, have a great day.
You too, man.
Well, guys, this is Mike Dean from the Rideshare Report. You've heard it from Abe himself, and he's apparently he's just out here trying to do what's best for everyone, even though obviously a lot of you don't agree with either his tactics or his cause. But consider the fact that you are Uber drivers and or TNC drivers, and I think it's fair to say that a lot of changes do need to be addressed. and he's doing that. Whether you agree with him or not, it's interesting. I'd like to hear back from you guys. What's your opinion? What's your input? You see the video, it's online. Leave your comments, your posts, and your ideas. This is Mike Dean. I'm going to go ahead and interview a number of other drivers who are here. I'll also interview drivers who are not here and see what their feedback is and their input. So we'll get back to you in a moment. This is Mike Dean again for the Rideshare Report. Thanks for joining me. Hey, this is Mike Dean with the Rideshare Report. I have Eric, a Rideshare driver that's here participating in the strike, and I just want to ask him a few questions. Eric, tell me, what brings you here today, and what are some of the grievances that you've had being a driver for Uber?
What brings me here is, is to try to get Uber's attention and unite all of our drivers. I know I've talked to a lot of drivers. A lot of them, they're not here because they're afraid, obviously. They're afraid of deactivation.
You think drivers might be at risk?
Well, yeah, because there's actually been examples of drivers trying to start things like this and they got deactivated.
Okay, my understanding is that Abe got deactivated.
Yes, he did.
He had flying colors in terms of his ratings and acceptance rates and cancellation rates. He had a clean record, and according to him, he got deactivated as well. So you think some drivers are not here because they fear deactivation?
Yes. I've had drivers actually let me know that that's what the issue was. A lot of drivers don't want to be in front of the camera because of,
that's fair. Yeah. So how long have you been in Uber driving?
About 8 months.
About 8 months.
Yes.
So have you been privy to the fare cuts? I mean, have you seen your
I haven't seen them as
salary
bad
go down,
as this gentleman right here and other drivers, but I have seen a little bit of it.
And what's your name, sir?
My name is Dwayne.
Dwayne, are you an OG? Have you been?
No.
You're not. How long have you been driving for Uber?
I haven't been driving long.
Oh, I thought you were driving for 3 years. I thought you said
No,
that.
I was driving for another company.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there's other drivers, that have felt it really big, because they used to make $1,500 in 4 days, and now it's like you're making $700 working a lot of hours.
Right.
Well, the reason I signed on because I had talked to drivers that said that's what they were making.
Mm-hmm.
And after I signed on, I found out that they had did a big pay cut. And I leased a car just to do Uber.
So you joined with a lease exchange program. You leased for like $200
I
a week.
leased the car on my own, but it was to a dealership that they had the program.
Okay.
And I just happened to have enough credit so that I didn't have to pay all the extra fees.
Right. Now, so what do you make? You drive here in San Francisco, I take it. And what is your average hourly? Or I mean, are you doing okay? Are you
I'm doing
good?
about 10 to 12 hours a day.
10 to 12 hours a day.
Yes.
And what are you
I seem
earning?
to only be taking home about $800. Where
Wow.
I was told that drivers used to make $1,400 and $1,500 for the same hours I'm putting in.
Right.
And I'm doing about 10, at least 10 on the average, 10 hours a day.
Now, are you driving for Lyft as well?
No.
Okay. So do you realize that Lyft waives their commission for drivers that drive 50 hours or more?
Oh, really?
Yes. Lyft also has tip options for passengers in the app. And if you drive 50 hours or more, 10 hours have to be during peak time, such as 7 to 10 in the morning. They will give you 100% commission in your
Really?
pocket.
I just started not too long ago. I've been a corporate bus driver.
Right.
I drove for the A's, I drove for the Giants, I drove for Barry Bonds driver, I drove for the teams, I've driven for a corporation. I was a bus driver for a lot of years. And then I got ill with a serious illness. It took me about a year to recover.
Right.
And I just kind of started actually driving again. So I heard about Uber and I decided to come to Uber until I actually got my corporate license back because I was inactive and I wasn't able to pass the medical because of my illness. I'm well now.
Right.
But I decided to come, instead of going right back to buses, I decided to come to Uber because I heard it was a good proposition.
Right. So one quick question. With that said, would you consider driving for Lyft at this point?
Oh, absolutely.
I've noticed a lot of drivers are shifting over to the Lyft platform. Apparently,
That's what I'm
they,
gonna
they,
do.
they consider being treated a little better. And if you're driving full time, you're putting way more money in your pocket in some
One
cases.
thing, I'm gonna tell you why a lot of drivers brag, and they still do, about making $1,400, $1,500 a week, because they're making money by doing it. Because Uber pays you $300 to refer somebody. when you refer somebody, you're not going to tell them the truth because they want the money. Uber knows that.
That's what happened to you.
That's their tactic.
That's what happened to me.
And another thing, I think it also should be illegal because there's actually, for truck drivers, do you know that they have to have a report card for driving? When they drive so many hours on the road, it's illegal to drive after over 12 hours.
Right. Well, I think in California State it's illegal to drive more than 50 hours, or 60 hours, but I'm not too sure how that's structured.
Well, yeah,
you know, that's for a driver for hire. In other words, a taxi driver can't exceed X amount of hours. I'm not sure if it's per day or collectively, but there
Because
is.
we're allowed to drive as many hours as we want. And I've talked to passengers that told me that they've had drivers falling asleep behind the wheel.
I think I have seen some screenshots. Yeah, I've seen screenshots where Uber has stopped drivers from driving a certain amount of hours. There's a feature in the app, but I think that's based on the amount of hours per day, not necessarily per week. But I'll look into that.
Yeah, because there's been times where I've drove 16, 17 hours actually in one day.
Right, now your buddy was waving over here. I think you had a question that you wanted to ask, or it was something that you wanted to say.
I mean, he wants to talk, but he doesn't want his face shown. That's the problem.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let me see if I can work that out.
Yeah.
And your name again? I'm sorry.
My name is Eric.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike, thanks for the interview. I appreciate it. Good luck with the cause, and
We're gonna try. You got to start from the bottom,
I agree.
Well, I'm not worried about it. If they fire me, oh well, I'll go to Lyft. I'm gonna go to Lyft anyway.
I'm going to Lyft too.
All right, guys.
After
Have a
what
great
you
day.
just said, I'm going to Lyft anyway.
This is Mike Dean with the Rideshare Report. I'm here with one of the drivers that's sharing his feelings with regards to participating in the protest. His name is Xavier. Xavier, I just want to ask you a few questions. What brings you here today, specifically?
I'm brought here because I feel like I was tricked into thinking I would make a certain amount of money that would help me afford to live out here in the Bay Area and help me pay for a car.
Okay, so were you under the impression that there was a certain amount of money that you would be making, and those things didn't kind of come to fruition? I mean, what's your grievance?
My main grievance with Uber is that they advertise that you would make a certain hourly wage or make a certain amount a week, and what they don't tell you is that they're taking 30% of that. What they don't tell you is that your car is going to incur some things that you're going to need maintenance for. And like, granted, I've done delivery jobs and whatnot, and I've had to cover my own car, but when you're using an expensive car and you're driving out here in the city, it's a lot different than just delivering. I'm from Sacramento, so driving around that area is a lot different than out here in the Bay Area, where you could come across a fine that you'll have to pay for out of your own pocket. And I drive a Prius right now that I'm paying $200 a week for. I was told that I would be able to drive with Uber and easily make that
Is that
payment.
on Uber's lease program?
Yes.
Or it is on the
That's through Uber's new lease program they just recently developed.
Okay, so you've leased a vehicle through Uber's exchange program, I believe?
Yes. So you would think that if they're going to take 30%, that would at least help cover a car or whatnot, but it doesn't. And they tell you that you'll make a certain amount, but they don't help you out with your car.
Right. Now, San Francisco happens to be one of the highest paying markets in the United States. Obviously, New York is on the front of that list, but that's a whole different regulatory body there, so it definitely raises the fares and drivers' earnings. What do you say you average an hour if you put in 40 to 50 hours a week driving here in San Francisco?
Driving here in San Francisco, I'd say, well, there was actually a study done that said that it cost about 58 cents a mile to operate a vehicle. And I believe we're being paid
Based on
well
IRS,
under that. Yes.
Yeah, that's what they are.
And I would say it's around 10, 15 an hour.
So is that 10, 15 an hour, in your pocket? Is that after all the expenses, after Uber's cut?
That's without me paying for the car, and that's without me paying for my car insurance.
So you haven't even factored in a whole bunch of other numbers
Yeah,
that
that's
could
just
actually
after
drop
they
it.
take their 30%.
So is there anything you want to say to some of the other drivers out there that would, that maybe didn't want to participate or against the strike, or really not for Abe and his cause or your cause in general in the movement?
I would say just think about the bigger picture. I don't believe we'll honestly get a majority of drivers to actually strike and not log into the app. But what I do feel is important is that we're here right now. We're in front of their office protesting. It's like when you see these workers coming into their office and they don't want to confront us and they don't want to talk to us, but they want to snicker and laugh, it's like, I don't feel that that is the way you should treat your employees. So I would just tell other drivers to think about stuff like that, that you need to make your money and whatnot, but it's important that your voice is heard. And I feel like that's the most important thing right now, is just your voice being heard. And they don't want to hear us. I mean, we've talked to more security guards out here and police officers than Uber employees. I was with a group of Uber drivers last week at the recruitment office. And it's like, you see so many new drivers coming in excited to make money, and it's like, you can't even tell. I spoke with one guy that was just excited to drive, and I told him, well, you know, you're not going to make that much. He just got a new car, and his friend was bringing him in, and his friend just told him how much money he made. And I think a lot of drivers feel like the first couple months you make good money because you get that referral bonus, but then...
Well, it's hard to stop. It's hard not to be a new driver, especially when there's here in San Francisco a $300 sign-up bonus. It's pretty enticing. You just got to do 20 rides. I mean, if I wasn't a driver, I'd probably do it. I don't know if I would continue to do it.
Me in
but but $300 for one day after everything is complete, I'd take the money and run.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, a lot of these new drivers that are coming in, they're not coming in at 20%, are they? Because as of September 2nd, Uber changed their commission structure in which they take out from the drivers. What are some of these new drivers, what are some of the commissions for them that they're paying to Uber?
I believe they're paying 30%. I know more veteran drivers are still paying 20%. I think what Uber's trying to do is cut out the veteran drivers and just find drivers that are willing to work for less. And when you make these big promises of a $300 bonus, like you said, that sounds exciting at first, but then as time progresses, like, what are you left with?
Right. So you think Uber's kind of recycling drivers to bring in new drivers at higher commission rates so that they can put more money in their pocket and generate more revenue?
Definitely.
Xavier?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I
Good luck
appreciate
with the
it, too.
cause.
Thank you.
And I'll see you out there. This is Mike Dean for the Rideshare Report. I'm out. This is Mike Dean reporting for the Rideshare Report. I'm out. I'll be back to you guys soon. Thank you.